welcome. You're watching a CNBC TV 18 special show. Today we are here to talk to Tiger Tyagarajan. He's been instrumental in taking Genpact to the big leagues. Genpact, of course, has been ahead of its curve. It got a large investment from Bain Capital back in 2012, and it has been leveraging not just the investments that have come in, but also the kind of deal wins and the kind of demand that it is watching out for right now. However, the industry has seen its set of challenges, has seen its set of struggles, and we have with us Tiger Tyagarajan to take us more into the details of the issues, challenges that the industry is facing and what Genpact can do about it. Thank you, Tiger, for talking to us. Always a pleasure to have you on CNBC TV 18.
Thank you, Kritika. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, Tiger, so my first question to you is, there has been a lot of a sense that the IT demand in US and Europe has gone down. What I want to ask you is, you have upped your full year guidance from $2.22 billion to $2.26 billion. From that, you have taken it up to $2.24 to $2.28 billion. What was the reason for that, and what was the confidence that helped you up the guidance despite this particular quarter being slightly sluggish?
So, Kritika, that's true. We did move our number up, but for us it was more about the acquisition that we did of the business and the company called PharmaLink in the life sciences space, and the contribution of revenue that we're going to get for the second half of the year from that acquisition was really what led us to increase our expectation for the year. So it was less about our view about the year changing. It was more about an addition to the portfolio.
Okay. You know, some of your peers have cut their guidance for the full year, citing challenges in individual contracts, citing challenges in UK specifically. Do you agree with that? Is Europe still struggling, and what are your clients telling you right now?
So interestingly, Kritika, for us, Europe has been a growth geography probably now for the fourth consecutive year. And I expect this year to be similar to many of the earlier 3 years, where Europe continues to do very well for us. But remember, for us, Europe starts off with a smaller base, than the US, and therefore it's easier to drive growth in a smaller base. Plus, in many of the types of work that we do, Europe has been behind the US in terms of taking some of the actions that are needed for the kind of work that we do. And we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years some of those actions accelerating in Europe, so that's been good for us. The specific around, different companies going through changes in their specific contracts, that's very, very specific to an individual company with an individual contract, and that could happen to anyone at a specific point in time.
So then let me turn that around. Are your clients seeing issues when it comes to consolidation, when it comes to discretionary spending? The sense has been that clients are now changing the way they spend within IT. How much of an impact has this change had on your clients, and how much of a hit do you foresee through this?
So interestingly, Kritika, our business is a little different from a number of our IT competitors in the industry. So one, we are less dependent on discretionary spend. Very clearly because of the nature of our business. Two, actually when going gets tough is when actually some of our business actually rises. When companies think about changing the way they operate, restructuring, separating into two different enterprises, consolidating into shared services, that's when we see an uptick in our demand. So we are actually going through a phase where we think a number of companies across the world in a number of industries that we serve are going through a major rethink on how they're going to run themselves going into the future, given the way the world is growing, which is still slow, given the fact that a number of them have to invest in new technology, in digital technology, in marketing, and the fact that they have to continue to expand in emerging markets and become global. So as a result, they have to extract value from a large part of their portfolio and restructure that, and we come into play when that transformation happens.
Okay, since you spoke about digital, Tiger, how much of a change, or where are you changing your processes, your approach to clients when it comes to adapting to the newer technologies, be it digital, be it big data, be it system integration, be it analytics? These are areas that we are seeing form a significant traction, if not in the immediate future, but definitely in the medium term. How are you changing your processes to fit this need of the client?
No, Kritika, it's a great question, and if you look back at the way we articulated our strategy for the next 5 to 7 years, and we did that at the beginning of this year. We had worked on it last year. We called it Blueprint. And we said basically there are 4 pillars of the strategy. First is we said we will pick a few industry verticals, a few service lines, and a few geographic markets, and really concentrate our focus, attention, investments, acquisition, capability building, sales force, domain expertise, everything in those areas. The second, we said we will hire, even bigger domain experts in each of those areas, whether it's an industry vertical like life sciences or it's a service line like finance and accounting and so on. The third thing we said is we will bring together process analytics and technology in order to be able to solve big problems that our clients and industries are facing. An example would be solving the know your customer issue in the institutional space in capital markets. Big problem that all banks face, and it's a problem that we are in the middle of helping solve by bringing all of these together and creating a utility. And the fourth is we said all of this we will take to the market with very senior people who are at the front end, and we said we will up that investment there. So the way we are approaching this is really creating solutions that bring those things together.
Okay, so let me ask you then, Tiger, how much, I know you can't put a number to it, but just how much of an uptick are you expecting? How large will the digital spending be? Can you give me a number to that, say in the next 3 to 5 years at least?
That's a very tough question, Kritika. So let me try and answer that in a different way. We clearly see in a number of our areas that we provide services in, a need and an opportunity to bring in digitization, taking things to the cloud, automation, as an integral part of the solution. So that we see. And if I were to pick a number, I would say in almost every service line, 20 to 30% will be that kind of injection of technology.
Okay, fair enough. So let me ask you then, taking in mind the digital revolution, keeping in mind also the geopolitical issues, the individual client issues that you are facing currently, tell me, what is demand looking like to you? How much of an uptick are you expecting in client spending, and what areas? Is this largely through US being your largest market, or is this across the globe?
So I'll start with geography. For us, the North American market, I'll put US and Canada into one bucket, is clearly a big market for us. It has always been a big market, and we now see a lot of companies in the industry verticals that we're focused on actually think about big transformation, as I said, in order to deal with the world and the reality of the world, which is a slow growth world for a long time to come and an investment requirement. I already talked about continental Europe. A number of continental European countries, including, for example, Germany or the Nordics, we're really seeing similar traction. And then I would pick Japan and Australia. We just signed a very interesting partnership in Japan. We think it's a landmark partnership. We think Japan is changing rapidly.
Okay, so Gartner says that the increase in global IT spending is likely to be between around 2 to 3%. Do you agree with that?
Kritika,
Global IT spending.
As I said, so let me first answer the question. Probably true, 2 to 3% global IT spend, but I would say more important is what is that spend going into and what is that spend actually going to decrease in? And clearly, there's going to be more spend in new technology. There's going to be more spend in digitization. There's going to be more spend in automation. And there's going to be more demand to take out cost from legacy, from running old things, from running infrastructure.
All right, Tiger, on that note, we'll take a short break. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. Tiger Thiagarajan will be with us on the other side as well. Welcome back. You're watching a CNBC TV 18 special show. We still have with us Tiger Thiagarajan from Genpact. Tiger, before the break, we were talking about your 2 deals that you have signed. You spoke about Hitachi. There's another deal that you signed with Honeywell as well. Tell us, how much of a contribution would this have in your growth in the full year? What kind of annual incremental revenue addition will these 2 deals bring to you? Specifically, tell me about the Hitachi deal.
Yeah, so let me first talk about the Hitachi deal. It's an interesting deal because it is completely focused on Japan, and it is providing services for the Japanese enterprises of Hitachi, both from Japan and ultimately over time from China. And as you know, we've been in China for 13 odd years. We have a deep history of providing services into Japan and in Japan, from both Japan and China. We have a couple of operating centers in Japan. We have 4 operating centers in China. So for us, it's a landmark deal.
Okay. Let me ask you about GE, since you mentioned your relationship with them. Currently, GE contributes to around 20% of revenues. This has been coming down over the last 4 years. And of course, your dependence on GE as your largest client has gradually come down. Your non-GE revenues have gone up. Is this expected to further go down? And if yes, by how much? What is your understanding with GE currently in terms of the spending that they are giving on an incremental level?
So as you know, Kritika, our relationship with GE dates back to the beginning of the company.
Absolutely.
And it's a deep relationship that cuts across all of GE's businesses, etc. And one of the interesting things about us and what we've learned working with GE, and now we use that with other clients, is continuously driving productivity, improvement, etc. So as a result, my challenge to my team and our partnership with GE demands us to continuously reduce the amount of work that needs to get done in order to deliver a particular service. And we drive that systematically. We drive that very hard. We use technology. We use Lean Six Sigma and so on. So as a result, we expect our relationship with GE to be as strong as it's been. But in terms of total size, it'll probably be broadly flat, sometimes down. This year, it's going to be down 3 to 5%. But in some years, it might be up 1 or 2%, and that's how it's been for many years. On the other hand, global clients outside GE continues to grow very healthily, and as a result, the proportion of the company with GE as a proportion constantly keeps declining, which is less about GE and more about global clients are growing so much faster.
There's been a trend that we are seeing within global clients where you're actually seeing an insourcing happening of BPM functions. How much of an impact has that happened, or rather has that had on you?
Kritika, not anything different from what it always is. And let me explain what it normally is. So when you have a large corporation and you start working with that corporation over many years, and you get various services that you do for them, for their different divisions, for their different businesses, for different services, and across the globe. There'll always be every year something that changes. So, it's a portfolio. You could have a $25 million relationship, 1,000 people, doing a bunch of things, and sometimes it might say, okay, let's take this back 50, but let's add another 50 there and another 100 there. That churn constantly happens because business changes. It changes these days more rapidly than it used to. Markets change, strategies change, and sometimes in a deep relationship, there are experiments that we do and a client does. Okay. And the deeper the partnership, the more they experiment, and the more the experiment, some of them will not work. And you say, okay, take this back, but give me that stuff. That kind of churn keeps happening. There's nothing special that we see happening where all of a sudden there's a wave of insourcing. We don't see that happen.
So that hasn't hit your numbers or your growth projection in any way at all within your client specifically?
Nothing special. We keep having insourcing of different things, but at the same time there's outsourcing. So it's less about, and nothing special. There is a portion of the portfolio that keeps churning, and that's regular.
Okay, and that's offset usually by operational growth as well.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Tiger, let me ask you about acquisitions. Genpact has not shied away from acquisition in the last, say, 6 to 7 years. But over the last 2 years, we've seen your growth coming in largely organically. Your operational functions have come from across your operational efficiency. But let me ask you then on acquisitions, any specific targets in mind? Now that you are looking at the next wave of growth, what are the areas that you're willing to look at? And you're sitting on a fat cash reserve. By when will you be able to, and what percentage of it would you want to spend?
So, Kritika, we actually do not set ourselves an acquisition target, and we do not set ourselves a target on how much of our cash we should use for M&A and acquisitions. We actually think that that's a wrong way to run our business because, you then try and chase something and maybe something is not available, etc. So the way we think about acquisitions is the following. We've chosen specific industry verticals. An example, as I said, is life sciences. And then within life sciences, we said regulatory affairs is a great new service line that we should build out. And then in that discussion, we came to the conclusion that it may be better to acquire. And then we went out and searched, and we found PharmaLink.
So now specifically, now that you've completed your PharmaLink's acquisition, going forward, what are the areas that could be empty or could be open to acquisition areas? What are your targets? What are your geographies? What are your vertical targets as well?
So I already talked about our geographic focus in terms of markets.
Yes.
Obviously, some of the acquisitions that we would do would have delivery from some of our delivery locations that we've always considered to be great delivery locations: India, Philippines, China, Eastern Europe, Latin America, as well as US and European onshore and Japan onshore. So that's the delivery and market side. When it comes to industry verticals, we have a set of industry verticals that we're very focused on. I would pick insurance as an example where, if we find the right capabilities in certain specific services in insurance that we like, that would be a great opportunity, and we continue to look for them. Healthcare is another focus vertical for us, and acquisitions in the healthcare space that we like, we would certainly look for them. Capital markets and investment banks, where we did the Headstrong acquisition now 3 years back, would be another great specific opportunity and specific capabilities in the investment banking world that we can add and bolt on to our industry vertical. And then finally, service lines. If we find the right opportunity, for example, in procurement, which is an enterprise service that cuts across all industry verticals, then that's an example that we could bring in. Technology, specific technology, just as we did the mortgage technology acquisition or the commercial lending technology acquisition or the order-to-cash technology acquisition. Similarly, technology acquisitions, particularly, for example, as it relates to how do you organize big data in some of the industry verticals we talked about: retail banking, big data; life sciences, big data; CPG, big data. Those would be interesting acquisitions, and we continue to look for those and have those in our pipeline.
Okay, my last question to you then, Tiger. There has been pricing pressure that we are witnessing across BPO industry, and it's not just the IT pressure that we are seeing. Tell me, how much of an impact is the competitive pricing landscape had on your pricing strategy? Are there any changes that you are witnessing in the market? Are there any changes that you are likely to implement in the way you go to market with respect to your pricing strategy? And secondly, Genpact has been gradually, probably going beyond the BPO landscape, increasing their focus, and it's now become a larger IT-based company as well. It's no longer just a BPO firm. Tell me, by when will you be able to say that, okay, we are no longer a BPO company, it's an IT-integrated IT and BPM firm?
So I'll answer the last question first. We've actually always thought of ourselves as a company that solves problems.
Absolutely.
Provides solutions. Our approach to those solutions historically has been there is an opportunity to attack and solve the problem by fixing the process, understanding the domain, and that's how we've always approached a lot of those problem areas and solution areas to add value to our clients. We are now actually bringing in more technology into those problem areas because we see an opportunity, given the way technology is changing from old legacy to new technology, lighter and less capex and faster implementation, and we like that. And we are infusing much more analytical insights and data-driven insights. I don't think the pricing competitive landscape has changed. It is competitive. Clients are very demanding. I think clients really want value, not just price. So for example, our conversation with clients is not just about price, but it's about future price, future total cost of ownership, productivity that gets driven.
Okay, one last quick word. You said next year will be better than this year. What gives you that confidence? Quickly.
So actually, Kritika, it's more about us.
Yeah.
We are and we have been on a journey over the last 12-odd months of investments. We called out 2014 as a big investment year. We actually spelled out $45 million of investments in specific areas, both in terms of new capability builds, domain experts that we are bringing in, and client-facing C-suite board-level people. And we continue that journey on those investments. Our view and what we think we are seeing is those investments are beginning to pay off. Some of the deals that we talked about, some of the pipeline activity that we are seeing, some of the conversations we're having with clients, and that gives us the confidence, apart from the fact that, we've had a couple of challenges this year in comparison to last year, which we talked about at the beginning of the year, which is the mortgage refinance volumes in the US. given the mortgage refinance volumes, came down pretty dramatically in the U.S. market, and our business there shrank. We don't see that happening next year because the next year comparison will be this year. So you put all that together, we expect global client growth to actually be better next year than this year, and that's really about us investing and driving the pipeline and signing some of these big deals.
All right, Tiger, all the best for the next 2 years, of course, the next year, and the kind of growth that you are expecting going forward. Thanks a lot for talking to CNBC TV.
Thank you, Kritika. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to have you, Tiger. So that was Tiger Tyagarajan from Genpact talking about his views. And as he said, the next year will be better because Genpact has invested significantly and it does expect investments to pay off. Thank you so much for watching CNBC TV 18.